Good afternoon, everyone. It is Adam Haroon from Branding MD. I hope you're all having a great day so far. And here we are once more for day four of our June Marketing Jumpstart. And today we are talking all about how you discover your most profitable patients, which I think is definitely, a hot topic for a lot of practices who, might realize that it's a little more than someone with wrinkles and a credit card, but maybe they don't know exactly what it means to define your most profitable patient or how to do it, or what difference it means to your marketing. So these are all things we're going to dive right into today, and I'm very, very excited. So just to give you a brief overview of our agenda today, we are going to begin by talking about why defining your patients matters and why defining your best patients matters. And what does that even mean, right? What do we consider when we want to define our best patients? From there, I want to share a little bit with you about how that's going to impact your marketing and how we really put this strategy into action to make a very tangible difference for your practice. So, lots of very actionable content. I would definitely encourage you, if you don't already, grab a pen and paper. This is going to be a webinar you're going to want to take lots of notes for. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, the question I want to ask to get everyone started today is, who are your best patients, right? If we were to look back over the past 6 or 12 months of your, practice, I hope by now you've realized that not everyone was an ideal fit. Not everyone was your best patient, right? So, keeping that in mind, we want to look at really kind of two segments of patients, right? So, the first segment of patients we want to look at are what I refer to as VIP patients, right? These are those individuals who aren't questioning your pricing, who follow proper post care so they get the best outcome. They are the ones who have realistic expectations, respect your expertise, and best of all, they refer their friends and their contacts to you, right? If you had a practice full of these people, you would be, as happy as could be, right? These are what we would like to refer to as VIP clientele. Now, on the flip side of that, we have what I like to refer to as learning opportunities, right? These were those patients that, even though, of course, you do your very best for them, if they never walked through the doors of your practice again, you probably wouldn't be any more upset, right? So these are two very opposite ends of the patient spectrum. But what I would encourage all of you to think about is, what did your VIP patients have in common, right? What were the common denominator or denominators among them? And then looking at your learning opportunities, as we shall call them, what did they have in common, right? Was it unrealistic expectations? Was it a certain indication, right? Was it that they found you through a certain marketing avenue? What did your best and your worst patients, what did they all share among themselves? So start to think about that a little bit. Now, one thing I do like to, challenge a lot of practices to look at, and that tends to ring true for many of them, is what I call the 80-20 rule. And that is that I would imagine 80% of your referrals might be coming from your best 20% of your patient base, right? So, right, good people know good people. And we really want to do everything possible to make sure that we're attracting more of these ideal patients, right? And in order to do that, we need to know as much as we can about them, because what that's going to let us do is, when we know exactly who our best patients are, what they look for in a practice, what their motivations are, what they resonate with from a marketing standpoint, we can really then create marketing that they see it, whether it's a Facebook ad or an out of home marketing piece, or they look at your website, whatever the case happens to be, and they say to themselves, oh my goodness, this practice gets me. I need to call them today to schedule a consultation, right? So this is all in the effort of really working with our best patients and being able to define them. So how we do that is through developing what in the world of marketing we refer to, as a buyer persona at large. At Branding MD, we like to refer to it as a patient profile. And this is really a very detailed representation of who your best patient is based on the research we conduct and based on what we know about the market already. Now, don't think your practice will only necessarily have one type of patient profile that you're going to serve and that we're going to target in our marketing. It's entirely possible that you'll have multiple, right? Most of the practices we work with have between 2 and 4 patient profiles that they work with in their practice. So, really want to dive in and show you how we really make this work. Now, before we get there, I know some of you may be thinking, this thought that we don't want to exclude people. and I completely understand. So I'm going to pull open my whiteboard here for just a moment, and I really want to help you understand why this can actually be so, so beneficial, right? So bear with me for a moment. There we go. So I want you to think of your practice as messaging, and bear with me, I am no artist here. Oh, let's actually erase that altogether. Bear with me. God love technology. Okay, we're just going to cross that out. Great. So let's go over here. Great. So let's refer to your practice's messaging as sort of like a dartboard, right? And of course, right, we want to make sure that all of our marketing messages, all of our advertising, everything we're doing to promote ourselves really goes after this bullseye here, right? This is our blue sky, perfect world, dream patient, right? We really want everything to go after them. Now, will every patient who comes through your doors be the exact representation of that perfect world patient? Unfortunately, not, right? This is planet Earth. But when we aim for that aspirational patient with all of our marketing and all of our messaging, here's what's going to happen, right? We're going to get a patient who falls around here, and that's great. And then maybe you get someone here who, isn't your best patient, but they fit a certain number of the criteria, and, that's okay as well. And then you might get some crazy person from, goodness knows where on the internet, and they're way out there. And we don't take them. But again, we really want everything we do to really focus on resonating with and catering to the needs of that perfect world best patient. So don't think that you're excluding people, right? We want to aim for the bullseye, but of course, right, not everyone who comes into our practice is going to be the perfect definition of that. And that's perfectly okay. It's almost like that old saying that when you aim for the moon, you'll land among the stars even if you don't get there, right? So just wanted to address that for those of you who may be worrying, about the whole idea of excluding people when you create patient profiles. So keeping that in mind, what do we want to include in our patient profiles? And there's actually a number of things, right? So the first is, of course, demographics, right? Our best patients, are they single? Are they married? Do they have children? If so, how old are their children, right? How close to the practice do they live? What is their annual household income, right? These are all these things we want to know from a demographic standpoint. And that can, really be the very, very beneficial foundation for this patient profile activity. So demographics are key. The next thing we want to look at is activities and behaviors. And to put that simply, what's going on in the lives of your best patients, right? Are they empty nesters who are finally ready to do something for themselves? Are they career women who are really looking to maintain their appearance so they don't lose opportunities to younger candidates? What's going on in the lives of your best patients? What kind of cars do they drive? What vacations are they taking? What kind of handbags do they wear? Where are they going shopping for their outfits, right? We want to know all of this because we can draw inspiration from outside of our industry when we know what is going on in the lives of our patients, both as consumers and as individuals. So, really important to recognize that. Third, we want to look at dreams and expectations, right? So I don't only want to concern myself with what my best patient wants as far as dreams and expectations for and as it relates to the outcome of any treatment or procedure, but I also want to know what are their dreams and expectations in life, right? Maybe again they are, in a certain season of life and really want to make the most of their golden years, right? Maybe they are a millennial and they're hoping to really prevent aging before it even starts, right? So I want to know not only what dreams and expectations our best patients have from your procedures, but also I really want to know what dreams and expectations do they have going on in their lives as a whole, right? That can be very, very important in your messaging to make sure we resonate with your patients and really understand what's going on in their lives. So very, very important. From there, we want to take a look at decision criteria, right? And what I mean by that is why would someone say yes to your practice and a certain treatment, or why would somebody say no, right? Are they worried about downtime? Is, discretion an issue if you're in a smaller town? Maybe it's budget that is a concern for them, right? Ideally not, but it could very well be, right? Maybe they are concerned about looking like they've had, a procedure and looking unnatural. Whatever the case happens to be, we really want to understand their decision criteria, not only why they might say no, but why they might say yes, right? Do credentials matter to them? Does location of the practice matter to them, right? What ultimately is going to have that patient move forward with a treatment or decide to put it off or go to somewhere else, right? We want to understand that. And finally, We want to understand, how does your practice meet their needs, right? How can you serve them better than any other providers in your regional market, right? Is it your open extra hours for those patients who have busy work schedules? Is it that you are, possess a certification or a skill set that other providers in your market don't, right? What is it that you can do and your practice can provide that others can't, that makes you uniquely qualified to meet their needs? We want to look at that in quite a bit of detail. So that's the next way we really can address that. So, bringing all these things together, these are the first considerations for a patient profile. Now, I would love to share the example with you of what this actually looks like when you put it in action. And by the way, you may actually want to consider creating a photo or taking a photo or finding one on a site like iStock or Shutterstock that really describes your best patient's visual, right? Visual appearance. So here we have an example of what I call June Smith, right? June Smith, June's Marketing Jumpstart. I hope you guys like that little joke. Anyways, June Smith here, we have a list of her goals, her challenges, and how we can help. So in her case, June Smith is a woman of a certain age who's really, quite happy in this season of her life, and she just wants her appearance to reflect that, right? She really wants to make sure that she continues to age gracefully, right? She's not trying to look 20, she just wants to age gracefully. And of course, she doesn't want to look like she's had work done. But at the same time, she's looking for a practice that is going to provide her with an elevated experience, right? And if this example, right, in this example, June Smith here lives in a smaller town, and discretion is a big issue for her, right? She doesn't want everyone knowing that she's been to, Dr. So and so's clinic, right? So we really want to make sure that we keep in mind her challenges, our discretion, and really the level of attentive service that she comes to expect from any service provider, whether it's cosmetic, beauty, or otherwise, right? And of course, we have a listing of how exactly do we help, right? So in this example, this practice is close to where she's located, right? There's a much more personal approach and reasonable price compared to larger competitors. And really, they are just a really unique fit because of that. So these are just three kind of categories you can start to flesh out when you develop your patient profiles. Two others that are really worth looking at are real quotes, right? I would encourage you in your day to day practice, keep a pen and paper handy, right? Take note of what you hear your patients saying over and over and over again, right? Take note of, if you're getting questions more than once, keep in mind what questions are they asking, right? And take note of those. And then, of course, we also want to look at her common objections, right? What are some objections you hear from your patients time and time again? Those are definitely worth including in a patient profile document, right? This is all incredibly beneficial as a reference point so we can leverage it in all of our marketing. And in a few minutes here, I'll show you some examples of exactly what that looks like. Perfect. So just to show you why this is so important, right? Let's look at some platforms, right? If we were to look at these young ladies, they are most likely on Snapchat or they are most likely on Instagram, right? But if we look at this gentleman right here, he's probably not on Instagram and Snapchat, right? It's much more likely that he would consume the evening news or possibly the Sunday paper, right? Likewise, we have this lady here who, maybe for her Pinterest is where she likes to browse a lot of her leisure time on social media, right? So as you can see, by defining your best patients, we really can focus on and devote our budget to our marketing avenues in a very strategic way, right? If you're a practice in West Virginia going after people in their 50s and 60s, your marketing mix is going to look radically different than the marketing channels and marketing mix of some practice that's in Los Angeles catering to millennials, right? The media your patients consume is different, cost of advertising is different, right? Your procedures on offer might also be different, right? So no two practices are alike, and your marketing shouldn't be either. Now, are there best practices that transcend practice markets and transcend sizes of practice? Absolutely. But ultimately, we want to make sure all of our marketing is really centered around who your best patients are, not only in terms of brand visuals and messaging, but also in terms of what channels are you using and how much of each channel are we devoting our, really efforts to from a marketing standpoint. So really, really want to help you all understand just how fundamental this is to so many other aspects of your marketing. Now, I want to give you an example here. This is one of our lovely clients in Canada, Dr. Stain. And what we found in developing her patient profile was that ultimately a lot of her prospective and existing patients were quite concerned with looking better, but they didn't want to look different. And that was one of their main really hesitations, right? They did not want to change their appearance, right? They just wanted to enhance and evolve it. So we came up with this tagline of look better, not different. And we use that throughout her marketing on her social media, her website, when her staff are talking to patients inside the practice, right? This message really becomes front and center. Now, at the same time, you may remember, right, that I mentioned branding is so much more than a logo. So we took all of her strategy and all of her messaging and everything we learned from about her patients and translated this into a logo that will resonate with them, right? Now, this is an MS. Those are her initials, but it also, you'll see, looks like a swan. And the real beauty of that is ultimately that allows us to really, really drive this message home that we are enhancing and evolving someone's appearance, but we're not changing who they are and we're not changing their look. So everything here is done much, much more strategically. And unfortunately, I find so many practices completely neglect the marketing side of strategy, right? They might have a business strategy, they might have an operation strategy, but they've neglected strategy when it comes to their marketing. So all of their web media, all of their digital marketing, all of their really promotional efforts and branding kind of just happens haphazardly and, based on the whim of a provider or a practice team, right? Rather than taking this approach, right, like we talked about on our first webinar, where there is a lot of strategy at play, right? It's really much, much more intentional. So as you can see, this works beautifully. Now, a few other ways I want to share with you that we've really leveraged this strategy of patient profiles or buyer personas effectively for our existing our clients are putting what we call goals at a glance pages on their website, right? So this could be sorted by age, right? In your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s and above, right? That's one way to sort these pages and really discuss the goals of each of those demographics. You could also do it by the skin concern they have, right? Maybe they're worried about rosacea. Maybe they are worried about sagging neck and jowls, right? Maybe they are troubled by acne scars. Whatever the case happens to be, we can create goals at a glance pages on our website. Of course, we can then also create treatment packages for each patient profile centered around what they need. And we're going to talk about that in our webinar about service menus, right? So that's another really big benefit of this activity and really getting to know who your best patients are. And finally, right, this means we can be much more specific and much more targeted in our messaging on social posts, in our promotions, in our blog content. So really defining your most profitable and your best patients is so much of a foundational step in all the other marketing activity we're going to do to really help your practice stand out. So these are just a few strategies that have worked really well for us. I'd love to know what questions or ideas you have, or really what you want to know about defining your best patients, right? So, again, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you all found this session beneficial. As always, any questions, please don't hesitate to send along an email. Again, this is Adam Haroon from Branding MD. I want to thank you so much for your time today. Looking forward to seeing you on the next webinar as well. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.